Hello and welcome to the Manifest podcast. Today we have a very special guest on the show. Her name is Helen Christoni and she is the Senior Vice President for Ideal Living. So welcome, Helen.
Thank
Today,
you.
today we are going to be talking about a topic that is so dear to my heart, and that is how our environment actually influences not only our health, but our energy. Because I know so many of my listeners and my viewers of the YouTube channel absolutely care about what they put into their bodies and how they can really nurture themselves through not only the air that they drink, the air that they drink, the air that they breathe, the water they drink, the food that they eat, but the thoughts that they think. So environment is very, very important. So Helen, would you mind sharing with me and our viewers today what is important to you and what is the message that you're wanting to share today?
Well, then I think that, clean air is it's so foundational for our health and also our health, our well-being, and also our mental health. So really the air that you're breathing impacts just every part of us. So making sure it's as pure as possible is very vital.
Hmm. It really is. And today I'd love to talk about a product that I love. I only talk about things that I love, which is the AirDoctor. And it's so funny that we're recording this right now, and I've actually got it going like within a few feet of me, and you can't hear it. It's
Yeah.
so quiet. So I'd love to talk about the benefits of that today and why it's so important to pay attention to the air that we breathe and some of the health impacts if we don't do that.
Sure. Sure. So, I mean, clean air, we are big air consumers. And
Mm.
so, as humans, we inhale about 3,000 gallons of air a day. And so, when you think about that, and actually just how much air we're taking into our systems, like if you were going to drink 3,000 gallons of water, you'd want to make sure it was the purest water possible. And so, people like we take breathing for granted. It's just something that we do. And so there's so much stuff happening in our environment, whether it's outside or inside, that's impacting our air quality. It's something we really need to take seriously, and it's key for our health and our vitality.
It really is. And looking at the recent tragedies with the fires in Los Angeles, I mean, this has created unimaginable damage, but also impacting people's respiratory health as well. And what I saw, there's a friend of mine, she works in public relations as well, and she saw a truck of air doctors being like donated, which I loved seeing because I know how it impacts. It's impacted me, in terms of sleep, in terms of health and wellness, that I've got 4 children, so taking care of their health is a priority. And when you have that taken away from you by a natural disaster and it's kind of out of your control, could you explain how something like the Air Doctor works to actually take those pollutants out of our air and out of our air environment and create the quality we need?
Sure. I mean, I think, I was down there with a truck.
Oh, you
And
were?
and I mean, we actually, as a company, we're an LA-based company, and we had so many of our employees were evacuated. I was evacuated.
Oh,
The power was down at our offices, and we just knew we had these units close by at a warehouse a couple hours away from here. And so we just said, let's just get these on a truck because
yeah.
we understood quickly how bad it was. And so I think that, when you're in an area, and it's not just, just had these tragic fires here in Los Angeles,
Mm,
but also, we've had the horrible fires in 2023 that were in Canada, that like all the
yeah.
smoke came into the eastern seaboard. We had East Palestine, Ohio, with the train derailment, with a toxic spill. We had a big
Yeah.
explosion last year in Atlanta. We had these hurricanes. The ones that happened last year were horrible. And so, our air quality unfortunately is impacted. And when you find yourself in that situation,
Hmm.
the sky is red, the wind is blowing ash, you can't breathe, and there's these toxic, the ash is, something, the big particles is called PM 2.5.
Hmm.
It happens with wildfires. And what's dangerous about something like PM 2.5 particles is they're small enough to enter the bloodstream. So they get into your system and they can affect your respiratory health, your brain
Hmm.
health, your on all kinds of there's correlations with long lasting impacts on health. And then also, what has really, in this recent fire here in the Los Angeles area, it's the volatile organic compounds
Hmm.
that have been emitted from, houses burning. Like, this isn't a wildfire.
No.
This is a city fire. And
Yeah.
so, you have asbestos and you have lead paint, you have cars burning, you have chemicals, you have everything. Like, and the volatile organic compounds and benzenes and all these
Hmm.
things that are in the air that aren't even tracked by air quality indexes can be
Wow.
extremely harmful to our health long term, and we don't even know the impact this specific virus is going to have
Long
to our
term.
health here. They're comparing it to like the 9/11 site, and so when
Oh my gosh.
so
Okay.
everyone really needs to be cognizant, and I think it's not, and I'm not into like scaring people, but being
No.
prepared. Like,
Mm.
I of course have air doctors in my house because I work for the
Yeah.
company, and having a refuge from smoke or dust particles and all this stuff in your home is really gives you peace of mind. And hopefully you
Yeah.
never need it, but when you do need it, it's nice to make sure that you're covered.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the wildfires. I mean, this is something that for people that haven't experienced natural disasters. I mean, I think I saw an interview that you did where you're talking about furniture varnish, like
Yes.
on the toxins that we have in our home that we don't even see. It's invisible and it can interrupt our hormones and our sleep and our ability to bounce back. So, can you tell me about some of the success stories that you've seen with the product?
Well, I mean, I think that, with my daughter Bella,
Mm,
she's suffered with allergies her whole
mm,
life. And Bella was a singer and she was in music school. And it would take her until noon to finally feel kind of clear after she woke up.
mm.
And so, I said, let's put this, air doctor in your bedroom. And I remember she called me from school the very next day and was like, Mom, I can breathe, I can sing. Like, this thing is magical. And so she was so relieved from her being able to just breathe.
Yeah.
When she struggled with this and she was tiny, and so
Hmm.
she is, 25 years old and finally able to, to breathe
Wow.
up, so also I think that people, like, when you have an air doctor in your room, you sleep better, you
You
wake
do.
up more refreshed.
Yeah.
It's once you have it and you're exposed to really the benefits of clean air, like when you travel and when you go places that you don't have it anymore, you really miss
You see
it.
the difference. You really do. I do when I don't have one in my bedroom, if I'm in like a hotel or something like that, you really do notice the difference. The other thing, and this is a little bit embarrassing, and I don't know whether your company's even looked into this, but I was aware that I started snoring. And then when I got the air doctor, it stopped.
Yeah.
And I think it was because the airflow was a lot better for me, and I was dreaming at a much deeper level as well. It's like with all of the people that talk about having trouble sleeping at night, needing sleeping aids, or like having a glass of wine before going to bed, you don't need that because it helps with anything. My anxiety is a lot more kept at a peaceful, calmer pace because of the airflow in the room.
Yeah, and I think also a lot of people just don't realize the impact on of contaminated air on your health.
Mm,
I always say people, like, if their eyes are itchy, their throat is scratchy, they have a headache, their resistance is down, they just don't feel well. A lot of that can be that you're sleeping, you're spending too much time in an
mhm.
environment that has polluted air, and indoor air is 100 times more contaminated than the air outside, because what happens is all the air from outside comes into your room or your building or wherever you are,
Hmm.
and basically it gets trapped.
Yeah.
And so you need to move the air to clean the air, and that's what Air Doctor does. It turns the air over several times an hour, so it's
Hmm.
actually cleaning the air in the room.
It gives a great peace of mind. It really does. And then one thing I wanted to talk about is my boyfriend. He suffered from severe mold poisoning to the point that he nearly lost his life. And
Oh,
so he's not messing around at all when it comes to the quality of air because he knows what sacrificing the quality of air can do to his mental health, to even his physical health. So have you seen people that have had mold poisoning and mold toxicity come to you guys and go, this has literally saved my life?
so much. And
Yeah.
so I have heard and I have read that 75% of the households in the United States have some form of mold.
I
And when you
know.
think about that, and like, and we're
Hmm.
this young country and we do a
Yeah.
lot of work overseas too. When I think about that, it blows my mind that we have so many houses that have a mold problem. And look, it's really important that if you have black mold, that you remediate it because black mold can be
Absolutely.
very dangerous. It
Yeah.
can really be very harmful. But the one thing about mold is mold particles are pretty big. They go from about zero point 0.1 microns upwards,
Yeah.
and it's pretty easy to remove them from the air. And something about AirDoctor that everybody really loves is it has the indicator light and it turns on if
Yes.
something's wrong. And so it gives
Hmm.
a light show. And when it detects something going on in the air, it'll change colors from blue and then it'll go to red and then it'll back
Yeah.
down to orange and back to blue again. And I had someone call me that I tell a story about how someone had a fire, a small smoldering wire in their bedroom
Hmm.
and it ended up catching fire and the air doctor was stuck on orange. It was like trying to let this woman
Wow.
who works with us know that something was amiss. And so another lady heard that story and she had her air doctor and it was constantly in orange. It would not go
Hmm.
to blue and it was under an air vent. And she said, and I always say, if the air doctor says something's wrong, something's wrong. Pay attention.
Yeah.
And so she went and she checked her vent that was over the air doctor, and sure enough, she had moldy vents. And so the air doctor was trying to tell her, and so she went and she had her vents cleaned, but it's a very smart machine. And it makes it like we call it air doctor for a reason. It really gives you
Hmm.
peace of mind. It lets you know what's going on in your household. And
Hmm.
it really makes everyone, especially moms and homemakers, feel better about their kids and what's going on in the house.
Yeah. So can you talk about how many air doctors somebody would need in their home? Because
Yeah.
it does cover quite a substantial space. It does clean it up. So what would you recommend?
So, air doctors and air purifiers do not clean through walls. And so they're cleaning within the room. And it's really important that people realize that you can't
Hmm.
get the really, really big one and it's going to cover your own or your whole house. It's just not how it works. But
Mm.
I always say the most important place to have an air purifier is in your bedroom. And
Yes.
especially children's bedrooms, like, their
Hmm.
lungs are developing, like, let's give them the
Mm.
best chance of being as healthy as they can be, right? So I
Hmm.
think our kids' bedrooms, our bedroom, and then if you have the opportunity where you gather, so if it's like you hang out in your living room or that's where I'd put it.
Yeah.
So absolutely the bedrooms and is the most important. And we have different sizes. And so
Mm.
we have smaller units for bedrooms, we have larger units for open spaces. And so I think that the bedroom units are absolutely the most important.
Hmm. And just to reiterate, it is so quiet. I'm recording this interview right now. You can't hear it in the background. Like podcasters are always so paranoid of, got to switch this off. It's going to be heard, but you can't hear it. It's
We have a
silent.
lot of air doctors and a lot of podcast spaces,
Yeah.
let me tell you, because
Yeah.
they're so
It,
quiet.
it's
And so
amazing.
people
Yeah.
call us all the time, and I'm not going to mention any names, but they're like, "Oh, can you send an Air Doctor 5500 for my podcast studio?" And so we've had a lot of requests. So
Oh, that's
it's
amazing.
it's actually pretty popular for that specific use case, which is great.
Yeah, Helen, could you tell me a bit about the founder or the creator of the Air Doctor and why the mission and where it started from?
Sure. I mean, our mission at Air Doctor is that everyone has the right to breathe pure air
Mhm.
and that it's accessible as possible and
Mm.
validated by science. So our founder and CEO, Peter Spiegel, I've had the pleasure of knowing him for well over 20 years, and he is an inventor and he
Mhm.
loves to create products that are affordable and
Mm,
efficacious. And that is exactly what he set out to do with AirDoctor. And he
hmm
really wanted to make sure that he could create units that had that, like our ultra HEPA filter and AirDoctor removes down to 0.003 microns. I mean,
mm,
that's medical grade HEPA
yeah.
filtration. And then also has a carbon VOC filter that will pull out some of these gases and formaldehydes and things. So he really wanted to provide a medical grade air purifier that you find in hospital settings at
hmm
an affordable price
mm,
for people. And also, I think it's worth mentioning, he himself suffers from allergies. He has a home
yeah.
in Austin. They have cedar fever there.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. That's
every
bad.
allergist,
Yeah.
and so he really like also for himself, like this is the product he really created
hmm
that he needed himself. So he's very passionate about the science. All of our products are third party validated,
hmm
rigorously tested. We share all that on our websites. And so Peter and the whole company, he's such a great leader of just making sure we're delivering education, great products that work and give people peace of mind.
I love that. And I love the fact it's so natural. There is such that element of making sure that people don't feel overwhelmed by understanding what they're getting with an air doctor. And could you talk about the filter process, though? How often the filters need to be changed and what comes out of the filters, which is kind of crazy, isn't it?
Oh, and I mean, I also think too, like one thing that I really love about AirDoctor, like our most
Mm,
popular model is the AirDoctor 3500. It was the
hmm
first, it's the most popular, and you could
mm.
pop the cover off and you see the dirt, and
Yeah.
your mind is blown.
Yeah.
You
It's like,
see.
oh, where did that come from?
And I think it's important because it's like, it really validates why you spent the money and invested in your health like this because you would
Yeah.
be breathing all this gunk. And so AirDoctor has three filters. And so the one filter is called an ultra HEPA filter.
hmm
And most HEPA filters, like you could buy one, from the hardware store or something, they only remove particles down to zero point 0.3 microns.
Whoa.
Our ultra HEPA filter removes particles down to 0.003 microns. So it's 100 times more effective. And what does that mean? The smaller the filter, the smaller the particle, it breaks your blood barrier, it gets into your brain. And so the
hmm
smaller the contaminants are the most dangerous. So those like less expensive filters you can buy elsewhere, they're just not really purifying down to a small enough level for your health.
hmm
And you change our ultra HEPA filter once a year. And then
Okay.
we have our carbon VOC filter. The carbon VOC filter is a heavy, thick, dense carbon filter, and it has something
hmm
called potassium permanganate in it that removes formaldehyde. So this removes things like off-gassing, like from the varnish we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier,
Yeah.
candles, cleaning products, I always say dry shampoo, things like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Perfumes, that kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
gas from the stove, all the things that you are in your house that you don't see, that's what the carbon filter deals with.
hmm
And then the carbon filter has the pre-filter attached, what picks up all the big stuff, the dust, the dog
Mm.
hair, all that stuff that really grosses everybody out when they see it. So
Mm.
you change that filter every 6 months.
Okay. Okay. That's amazing. I think, I mean, it's so easy and intuitive to use too. That's what I love about it the most. So, a more personal question here. What do you love the most about your work at Ideal Living and promoting Air Doctor and helping people?
I mean, I think that I had um my own health problems from a toxic burden.
Mhm.
I was diagnosed with severe osteoporosis in my early
Oh,
40s, and I
okay.
really had to make some major changes in my health to
hmm
kind of combat that and kind of reverse that osteoporosis diagnosis. So I got very tuned into what I was eating, what I was breathing, what I was
hmm
drinking. So it's my own personal story. And
Yeah.
then in addition to that, I feel so lucky that I'm able to just educate people
hmm
and just share the knowledge of what's in the air What can you do about it?
Yeah.
And I make it easy for people to understand. So I think that like I love connecting with people and educating on clean air, and then we have a sister brand, clean water also, and
Hmm.
really just empowering people to make great choices in their home for their families.
I absolutely love that. So what would you say you're most excited for with the company in like the next 5 years?
Oh, I think innovation for sure.
Innovation? Okay.
And so we have a lot of products coming in the pipeline that will really give
Good.
people more knowledge, more information in their homes. We have some
Hmm.
beautiful new Air Doctor models coming out a little
Ooh,
later this year,
okay.
and we're constantly innovating and adding products to our assortment. And then I think also just making sure we're here to help. Like we're
Mm,
an LA-based company. We're always in the event. I mean, I don't look forward to this, but I'm glad to be able to be in a position with a company where we can be on the ground like we were
yeah.
in the recent LA fires, and we can help as soon as possible.
Hmm.
Being of service is very important to us as a company, and that's something that we continue to look forward to be able to do.
And do you have the website, social media accounts where people can find more information about AirDoctor Pro?
Oh, yeah, you can find AirDoctor Pro on Instagram, and then if you go to www.airdoctor.com, you can find us on the web.
And I'll also have all of the information in the description of this podcast episode. So thank you so much, Helen, for your time today. It was great to connect and to chat about AirDoctor.
Thank you. It was super nice talking with you too.
You too. All right. Thank you so much. Bye.